Okay, so I just took my hair out of a half ponytail. But other than that, the sun is 29 degrees Pisces, which means that the sun, which is representative of our ego and our vitality, is transitioning into the original fire element of Aries. And Aries is the birth of ego consciousness, the spark and the desire of your soul, essentially, that wishes to come online, right? So we're going from Piscean energy, which is dark and vast and extremely spiritual and boundless, to now a self-actualizing fiery energy. Now, this self-actualizing fiery energy does not find true embodiment until it reaches Taurus, where the consciousness or the ego consciousness finds itself in the body, which Taurus represents. So, 29 degrees Pisces, per Elias Longsdale's Inside Degrees, which I do like to visit Inside Degrees and take a look at what she has to say about such, is basically the culmination of not a trivial, but an existential crisis that was self-propelled onto oneself, that puts your soul or your blank conscious awareness that is in collection with the subconscious magical whole, decides to put itself through the ringer. It's a setback in order to be spring forward. So Pisces season can feel a lot like going backwards, not only going backwards into time, but going backwards in regards to one's progressions, right? So we're taking what may seem like a metaphorical loss, only to then rebirth this conscious awareness in Aries season. So I'd like to take a look at some of the energies here at play to see what it is exactly that we're leaving behind and or gaining as the sun traverses 29 degrees Pisces and begins to enter Aries tomorrow. So we have the athlete here as I split the deck, and Aries is essentially the athlete of the zodiac. It is also the spiritual warrior. And then we have the slave, and Pisces is the metaphorical slave. So we have Pisces and Aries personified as I split the deck. Beautiful. So what seemed like a setback was only your mind or your spiritual existence basically putting you through a simulation that seemed a bit like a mind trick. It was all very much very real. Like, you experienced the pain, you experienced the traveling, you experienced the illness, you experienced these setbacks, but they weren't permanent setbacks. They were actually setbacks in order for you to be sprung forward 10 times further. So it's like when you cock back a slingshot, right, and you let it go, the momentum fires through. So this 29 degree Aries sun is representative of that slingshot being cocked back in order to fling you forward into conscious awareness or into individualism, because the Piscean energy is where everybody is coagulated, where all the spiritual, metaphysical forms and lack of forms and gases or whatever are just one thing. Like, imagine the universe. It's just one big black hole, so to speak. And so Aries is the individualization of a piece of that metaphysical energy deciding to cut itself from the whole and individualize itself as an individual egoic force. Right? So we're now peeling ourselves away from the glue and now learning to love ourselves again, or learning to re-individualize ourselves again. So you're going to see a time where everyone had to definitely band together, which we still have to go through, because we have a stellium in Aquarius and we still have a stellium in Pisces, and Aquarius is the conscious collective and Pisces is the subconscious collective. So there is still a deep need for us to maintain this integrity. Although we're now going to be able to understand how it is that we're going to march forward in our individual paths while remaining connected. So I had this energy fall out. It's the femme fatale. It highlights the erotic energy of the feminine. It opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. Exactly. So Pisces, in a lot of ways, is a dependent energy. It's the glue, right? We're all one big blob. And Aries is the individualization from such blob energy, which can seem like a rejection of dependency. But when we are rejected of being dependent on a source, a substance, a person, or a thing, our heart is forced to be opened, right? A heart opening doesn't always feel good. It usually doesn't feel good. It's actually quite painful, and it takes a lot of bravado to do so. So we have erotic energy of the feminine. Pisces is feminine. Aries is masculine. Opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. And the shadow attribute is inappropriate use of sensuality, attachment to money and power. So coming out of this Piscean energy, where we're awakening from what was perceived as a setback and what was felt like a setback and what was an actual simulation of a setback. And when we come back into Aries conscious energy, ego conscious energy, there could be a little bit of a cockiness that comes along with it, as Aries can be very cocky, straightforward, abrasive, rash, even aggressive and agitating. It looks like there is a warning of the attachment to money and power and the inappropriate use of sensuality. Pisces can be very sensual energy for sure, as it is the feminine, subconscious, dark energy that knows the secrets and all the triggers that hide behind the veil. And Aries can sometimes be a little bit too confident in its abilities to persuade the feminine, right? Because the natural feminine is very enticed by the masculinity of Aries, the direct forthrightness of Aries, and this could lead to an abuse of power. Even though it seems like the feminine, the dark feminine energy seems to be flowering on her own and seems very enticing and or tempting in its own nature with the femme fatale. The femme fatale is a very sexy, attractive, lusty woman or feminine energy that makes you just like say auga, like it's very hard to resist. On the other end, because this energy knows itself as to be seductive and quite powerful, there could also be a tendency to abuse such manipulative energy. Pisces in its own can be extremely manipulative, again, because it's behind the scenes and has the ability to pull all sorts of strings, right? Especially on an emotional, energetic level. Addict, which can be addicting, right? So we have the abuse of money and power. We have addict and exorcist. So the femme fatale, the addict, and the exorcist, which is a combination of the 29-degree Piscean energy. It's very sexy, attractive, sensual, something magical, mysterious about it that really draws you in. And the Piscean energy is also representative of addictive energy, addictive tendencies, and being lost and trying to find itself in sensual pleasures. Like, I need to dull my pain. I need to find happiness. I need to really indulge myself. So the addict helps you recognize and confront addictive behavior. And the shadow attributes is compromises integrity and honesty, which has a lot to do with the inappropriate use of sensuality. Allows an addictive pattern to have authority over your inner spirit. So we may be releasing an addictive pattern once and for all. Maybe we're releasing some sex addictions or some addictions to the opposite sex that kind of cause us to take abuse or take for granted our power that we have and hold over others in this potential this arena of possibilities and potentialities, right? As we move into Aries, where the ego is now in gear, right? Pisces is the dissolution of the ego. Aries is the actualization of such. And then we have exorcist. freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses. The shadow attribute is fear of facing your own demons, right? So I think over the Piscean season, we saw a lot of our destructive tendencies, and or we re-experienced our destructive tendencies. We saw a lot of our lower natures and how it is that we tend to abuse ourselves, whether it's drowning out our sorrows, you know, smoking too much, drinking too much drugs, maybe too much porn, too much sex, finding too much pleasurable experiences. And this Piscean energy has really taught us how to confront these energies and or to placate them, whether we've erased them completely or whether we've just kind of took these tendencies and addictions down a notch. 29 degrees Pisces. Today we're able to truly reflect and let go of our fears and our addictions once and for all. Aries season is a little bit of an impulsive energy once again, and what we seem to let go of and what we thought we learned from, we can tend to grasp into head on and overindulge and abuse what we work so hard to get away from, right? So it's about controlling your impulses, spiritual strength, right? Because you've definitely, your spiritual and inner strength has definitely been tested. So don't allow, right, this new fiery energy to cause you to be impulsive and to throw away all of the hard spiritual work that you've accumulated over this past month, right, or over this past year. Okay? Right, a lot of us could have been addicted to the feminine energy as well, like maybe being too absorbed in the looks, too absorbed in sexuality, maybe being enticed by the feminine sexuality. But at the same time, allowing it to heal us, right? Because the feminine energy is extremely healing. Spiritual strength, though, I see mind over matter. Mind over matter is imperative at this time. Right. 29 degrees Pisces. Right. Don't let your improvements, don't let this time, just because it's like the weight is being lifted in a sense, don't let your hard work go to waste. Like, don't flush it down the toilet with Aries season. Like, it's about not abusing what you've worked so hard to gain through all of these trials and tribulations that seem like a setback. But once you realize that it wasn't a setback, you might have a tendency to go too far. Stand your ground, right? So there's a need for you to cultivate and call forward like your inner strength and really stand on the firm foundation that you've built. Although Pisces season does not seem firm, coming into Aries season, which is that warrior energy, is going to allow you to stand in your power and allow you to ground and anchor the spiritual strength that you've accumulated over Pisces season. Yeah, so use this Aries energy to ground your potential, your warrior spirit, the strength, your ego assertion, instead of being lost in addictions or the need to run back to addictions, etc. And sacrifice, right? Because we have exorcist and sacrifice. So like the exorcist is about purging. It's just freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses, fear of facing your own demons. And the sacrifice, it's like we went through so much to purge our fears. We went through so much to purge our impulses, right? Freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses, right? We've gone through so much to free ourselves of our addictions, of our shortcomings, right? And it's basically wanting you to not let that all go to waste with the spark of desire, with the spark of being set back onto ground, with the idea, like with this inertia and this like freeing energy that makes you feel like you're on top of the world. This very feeling can actually set you back from all of the progress that you made through Pisces season. That was, again, a setback. But if you allow yourself to properly anchor yourself into Aries season, this fiery, masculine, go-getter, secure energy, to not let that basically get to your head. Don't let that get to your head. Don't let yourself get ahead of yourself, because then that in itself could actually be a true setback versus an actual setback in order to be sprung forward. I hope I'm making sense. It's like we've made so many sacrifices, and we've gained so much spiritual strength, and we've learned to like stand our ground and to be perseverant. And I mean, to let like simple, you know, addictions and weaknesses like take us out of the space of power isn't worth it. So it's like being out of the clear, but not being out of the clear. It's like you made it out of the jungle, but be mindful of your steps. Like, don't get too happy-go-lucky is what I believe this energy is telling us at this time. Femme fatale, addict, exorcist, stand your ground, spiritual strength, and sacrifice. Let's see what else we have here. Let's pull some Black Moon Lilith cards to see what astrological energies are influencing this, other than the Pisces the Pisces sun leaving this whole astrological year behind, going into the spring equinox with birthing new energies. What else do we have to look forward to? Like, it seems to me like this is an empowerment and a strengthening of your spirit via the ability to let go of sexual impulses and or addictions of all sorts, purging yourselves of, you know, destructive tendencies that didn't allow you to grow on a spiritual level. I think that you've done the spiritual work and you've stood your ground, and you remained steadfast and straightforward, and you made the necessary sacrifices. Don't let that all go down the drain just because you feel like the coast is clear, basically. Right? Because it is clear, but you're still anchoring the energy. You're still solidifying it, right? As the ego consciousness anchors itself in the body come Taurus season. So you just need to make it through one more month. Get through Aries season, and then you can get a bit more comfortable in Taurus, as you find out your final form will be anchored and embodied physically. This is still a test of the will and the test of the spirit still. Although fast moving, straightforward, and very fiery. It's the spark of life. But we're still not at a point. We're still not at a point of anchoring this energy physically just yet. So what seemed like a setback was not a setback, but taking advantage of the progress of what you made up until now can actually be the actual setback. I know I'm repeating myself, but it makes sense. I'm just making sure that it makes sense to you and that I'm not missing out on any details. Is there anything in here for us? All right. So we have lunar eclipse change, right? We're still in the midst of change. What did I say? Taurus, I have. We're still in the midst of change. Things are still a little bit dark, and things are still shifting and taking form. We will be a lot more safer and grounded in Taurus season. It's not that we're not safe now, but there's still a possibility of mistakes and reversing all of the progress that you made up until now, only because you're free from the heaviness of spiritual tests and spiritual learning and soul learning and karmic clearing and purging. You're clear of that energy, but don't mess it up until Taurus season. Look it up. Look up Taurus season dates, okay? So that you can remain mindful as you continue to anchor the spiritual changes that you have successfully ensued and pursued. Because I see that you've definitely stood your ground, and you do have the spiritual strength, and you did make the sacrifices. But the addictions and the enticement is still kind of floating, if you would, until you get a little bit more sturdy and grounded in Taurus season in your body. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a trigger warning. Just a small warning. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It's just a tidbit, having us leave Pisces season going into Aries season tomorrow. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Later.